version 12.3, we've added an option to the library's hardware hinge category. We call this Advanced Hinges. Let's review this. If you go to your Libraries tab, Hardware, and make sure you're in the Hinges tab here, over here on the right, you can see we've added an option called Advanced Hinges. We also have an option here called Standard Hinges. All of your existing hinges will come in to the new update in the standard category. If you are typically using one style of hinge in a job, please keep that selected. If you use multiple hinges in a job, then you can set up a new hinge called Advanced. Let's look at the Advanced Hinge option. Let's drop this name down. Well, I'm going to select the hinge name Bloom Clip Top Bloom Motion. These are available if you go to your Tools tab, Import Updated Data. Now, all the data imports are now cloud-based, so as we move forward, we'll be adding different options to that updated data. Now, let's review the Advanced Hinge option. You can look down here, we have a column called Type. You have different hinge types that you can select from. You can select the overlay hinge type, half overlay, inset, corner 90, corner angled hinge type, bifold, bifold inline, blind corner offset. All of these hinges will automatically change as you're modifying your cabinets. If you select any hinge in the advanced hinge settings and the pencil, this will open up the specialty hinge editor. You can see we have fixed locations you can assign to a hinge as well as the array feature. Now, what I want to do is first go through these different hinge types with you, and then we'll go into how to set up a new hinge and change it to an array or a fixed position. I'm going to select OK here. We've already imported this particular hinge. Now, in the Settings tab, in your door and drawer fronts, I'm going to change the base hinges to the Bloom Clip Top Bloom Motion, as well as the wall hinge. That way, when I'm bringing my cabinets in, those hinge operations will apply and we can see it in a live setting. Let's go to the products page. As you can see, I already have a room set up in this job called Advanced Guides. Let's go ahead and bring in a wall pair of doors. I'm just going to drop this on wall number 1 here and double click on it. We'll bring it into the product editor and select the view product. And we can see this live now and see how these actual operations are going to apply to this particular cabinet. If I go to the interior, I'm going to remove all of the shelves from this particular cabinet. And that way we could look at the operations and how they move without all of the adjustable shelf operations visible. Now, if you go to your hardware tab here, you can see that we are using the Bloom Clip Top Bloom Motion for this particular cabinet. This will be 2 hinges for the left door and 2 hinges for your right door. If I go to the Face tab and select the opening, I'm going to split this. That way I add a separator to the interior, as you can see here. I'm going to add a partition, and I'm going to lock this partition into the center. Now you can see we still have these doors hinged on the right and the left. I'm going to go to the Face tab, and I'm going to rehinge this particular door right here to the right. And you can see the operations move for that door, and they added the actual plate operations to my partition. If I go to the hardware tab now, you can see I'm still using the full overlay hinge for the right door, but the hinges on the left door automatically switch to the 110 half overlay that we set up in the hardware library. Now let's take another look here. Let's go back to the Face tab and let's make this a panel right now. So this would be kind of simulate a blind corner. So if I drop this type down to a panel, and if I go to the interior and I delete this particular partition, looky there. Now my hinge operations are on that panel right there. So that is a nice feature. Let's go back to the hardware. And now look at this. It is switched to the blind corner hinge that we have set up. All of the operations are set and transferred from what we set up in the library's hardware. Let's go back to the Face tab. I'm going to select this panel now and go down to the Adjust feature. We have added another feature here on the Reveal adjustments called Subpanel. When I select this, you now have the selection where you can adjust your reveals either on the panel or the subpanel. I'm not going to change these reveals right now for either one, but let's select OK. Now, if you look here, I've got a subpanel added behind that panel, and the operation moved to that subpanel. If I go to the hardware, it changed the hinge automatically. Now we're using the Bloom Clip Top 95 overlay blind corner offset. So you can look at these and set your hinges up properly. And as you change your configurations of your products, they're automatically going to adjust for you. Now let's go back through and review the hinge types that we've used so far. With just a few modifications, I was able to use the overlay hinge type, the half overlay hinge type, the blind corner hinge type, and the blind corner offset hinge type. Now let's explore the inset hinge type on this particular cabinet. I'm going to go back to the Face tab. I'm going to clear everything out. I'm just going to add a pair of doors this time for it. I'm going to change my face style from frameless to frameless inset right here. Now there you go. We've got an inset hinge set up in here. And you can see I've made my adjustments in the library's hardware. If you go to the hardware tab now, looky here, the inset hinge is being used on that. So when you look at this, let me fill this color so you can see that a little better. This is an inset cabinet and it changed automatically to that inset hinge. Go back to the Face tab and I change this to a regular frameless, which is basically an overlay. This can be considered your full overlay hinge, and you go back, looky there, full overlay. Isn't that amazing how that works so quickly and seamlessly when you're making your modifications? Now let's go ahead and let's review the corner 90, corner angled, and the actual bifold hinge here. I'm just going to go to the interior and I'm going to add a couple of adjustable shelves on this wall cabinet and select OK. I'm now going to bring in a 90 Susan cabinet and drop it on the wall, double click on it, and let's move it over here to the right in the product editor. Select your 2D, 3D viewer, and let's go to wire. You can see right now I've got hinges on this right door, and look at the positioning of the hinges on this set of doors right here. This is where the plate would go. This is where the actual stamp of that hinge will go. This is a very unique style of hinge, and so is this one. Let's go to the hardware tab and look at this. Now you've got a Bloom 60 bifold. That would be this hinge. And right now, this other hinge is a clip top Blue Motion 155 corner 90 for this particular hinge. So you can see how Mosaic automatically adjusts based on those positions. If you have a standard hinge that you're using on this cabinet, you would want to make sure that your standard hinge is selected for the hinge type corner 90 so it applies to the right door on this cabinet. Now we have one hinge type left to talk about. That is the bifold inline. Let's select OK. What I'm going to do is go to the Libraries Hardware, go back to the Hinge category, and these are my hinges right here. Let me make sure I have this one checked. Now, what I'm going to do here is select the plus sign to add a new hinge. So we're going to select this. This is the bifold. I'm going to switch this to the bifold inline. I'm going to keep the settings for the hinge location at array, 4 inches from the top, 4 inches from the bottom of the door, and a max separation of 30 inches. So as this door grows, these hinges will automatically multiply with a max separation of 30 inches. Let's left click on the door operation pull side and open up the part editor. Now at this particular hinge, I want to set up 2 operations for a plastic dowel so I can put a plastic dowel in here and then insert a wood screw. Switch it to millimeters. I'm going to switch my diameter to 8. I'm going to keep the depth at 13. My X value is going to be a negative 15, and my Y value for this particular operation will be a negative 24 right here. Now on this one, same thing, diameter 8. My X value is a negative 15, but my Y value is going to be a positive. Everything to the left of this axis on the X value is negative. This particular portion above this axis is positive on your Y and negative on your Y down below the line. Let's add one more hole here. This hole is going to have a depth of 9 millimeters. It's going to have a diameter of 35. My X value is going to be set to a negative 15. And my Y value is going to maintain where it is on the 0 for the Y. Select OK. We've got this set up on the pull side. Let's go to the hinge side now. Once again, switch it to millimeters, 813. This time the X is going to be at 15 and the Y at 24. And this other operation, we're going to make it just totally opposite, 15 with a minus 24. Take a little bit getting used to adjusting these, but once you get the hang of it, it is fairly simple. The depth of this will be 9, the diameter is 35, and the X value is 15 there. Let's select OK. So you can see I've added my operations for the door hinge side as well as the door operations for the pull side. I'm going to highlight the name here, and what we're going to do is change this to bifold inline. If you look at these names here, these are the names that are pulling into the product editor parts tab for you. So let's select OK. I'm going to select this cabinet, double click on it, and move it over to the right. Now you can see here we have a pair of doors here, both hinged on the left and right. If I go to my hardware, those are both called the overlay hinge, or we've got them actually named the full overlay because it's pulling from that name. If I go to the face tab, highlight the doors, I split this so I have 2 separate doors. I'm going to hinge this door right here to the right. Look what just happened there. You see how that added that inline hinge to this door as a bifold? This will still maintain the overlay hinge right here. You do have 2 pulls on here in this situation, but I can select this door, adjust, and delete the pull on the right door. Now when you open this up, it'll not only hinge from the right side of the cabinet, but you do have the bifold inline hinges right there in the middle, as you can see. So when you're setting up these hinges, if you're just using a standard hinge, just like a regular overlay hinge or a half overlay hinge, like our original settings were, please maintain the standard hinge settings on that. If you have multiple hinges that you're going to be adding to a job, or you want them in your library, make a new template, use the advanced feature, and make sure you go through and understand the different hinge types that are available. Now, there is one hinge type left. It is called corner angled. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the Susan 90 cabinet here. And let's go back to the base cabinet corners right here, and let's select a 45-degree Susan. Now you can see this will also take a totally different hinge versus the 90 Susan cabinet or any of the other cabinets. Let's select this and double click on it. This is a special hinge for this door because of the 45-degree angle. And you can see there's the center of the hinge stamp and then the plate stamp right here on the end. Let's go to the hardware. Look at that. That right there, we've got this named the 110 diagonal 45, but the hinge type this is using is the corner angled hinge type. So you have got all these different hinges available for you. We have gone over the overlay, the half overlay, the inset, the corner 90, corner angled, bifold, bifold inline, blind corner, and blind corner offset hinge. Make sure you set up your hinges properly and you will get a lot more benefit from the advanced hinge features.